What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon 466 Cards. Tariffs have hit the hobby. They are here and they're impacting a bunch of big companies in the hobby. And if you've taken an Economics 101 class before, you know that the end consumer pays for tariffs. So that means that all of us collectors will be footing the bill, as we are about to see. And even if you're in the US, this will impact you. I had heard people speculate when I raised the threat of tariffs a couple of months ago that cards would be exempt because they were manufactured in the US or something along those lines, but that is clearly not the case at all, as you are about to see. As you may know, I live in Canada and I use Ship My Cards, which you see on your screen, and they are experts in international shipping. They posted this update that you see on your screen on April the 3rd, so let's go over each line item and then move on to some other things I've seen. So this is from the owner, Brian. Shout out to Brian at Ship My Cards. First item here, tariffs for items coming into the US from other countries. They will be impacted. So if you are someone who often buys cards or are interested in buying cards from abroad, those purchases will be hit by tariffs. Full stop. That's pretty straightforward. Now, if we are sending items out to your country, we are not impacted unless your country has also added tariffs to USA items. I live in Canada. I think we've heard by now there have been some back and forth on tariffs between the two countries. So this impacts me. It may not impact you if you are living in other countries that don't have the situation, but it seems like there are a lot of tariffs for a lot of different countries out there. This also impacts you if you're in the US, because if you have cards that have a good market outside of the US, this will impact your ability to sell those cards, because now the buyers of your cards will have to pay an additional, whatever it is, 10, 20, 30, 40% tariffs on the price that you pay. Number 4, it talks about carriers and broker fees. That's less important. I'm not as interested in that. But number 5 definitely is interesting. We have been seeing some customs issues, mainly with cards bought from Canada and coming through the Canadian eBay authentication program. eBay authentication applies to 2 countries only, Canada and the US. And so it sounds like if you're in the US and you buy a card that goes through the eBay authentication program from Canada, they are being dinged for the full sold value. And so the people that ship my cards here are getting the bill for that. There's some stuff here about PSA, which we'll talk about later, so we'll skip that. And then number 7 is one that hits a bunch of people. Tariffs will start causing many delays and costs for supplies. BCW is already changing many items to 2 to 4 month back orders because of the large tariff for items coming from China. We expect card supply prices and availability to become an issue in the future as most of those items are made in China. So there you have it. If you have any interest in flipping items for profit, perhaps you buy a bunch of in-stock card supplies. That'll help you make some cash. That might be the new flip game for those keen people out there. One last thing I asked in the comment section below, I asked, what about shipping cards from Card Hobby? And so Brian said, yes, absolutely, they will be hit by tariffs. And so if you're buying anything from China, yeah, definitely being hit by those. So those are the updates from Ship My Cards. Those aren't the only companies being hit by the Trump tariffs, though. We have ComC. You can see this on their IG page, but I will just get to the main point of it all. It's not sustainable for ComC to continue covering the 25% increase in duty fees it has been doing. As a result, ComC has no choice but to raise its duty fee on cross-border shipments from 5% to 30% effective immediately. So again, if you are like me and live in Canada and want to ship your cards home, well, that's no good. But also, if you are a ComC seller and you sell, let's say, a bunch of hockey cards, you might have less of a market now if those people can't ship them home to Canada. So that's ComC, another big company in the hobby. And of course, PSA is temporarily pausing the acceptance of PSA grading submissions directly to its US facility. I will not get into the details of this, but basically anybody from outside the US can't submit to PSA. Other people, I believe Dan the Cardman and Neo, have done videos on this. Go check those videos out instead of me repeating all the stuff that they've talked about. I will not do that here. Basically, you can't submit if you're not outside, or if you are outside the US. That's not good. So where do we go from here? We have PSA, we have ComC, we have BCW supplies, we have any card basically that you buy from outside of the US. We have companies or people not being able to ship cards home without getting hit by tariffs as well if they live outside the US, like me living in Canada. What is the end game? What do I do? Well, let's see the impact of the Trump tariffs to figure out what might lie ahead in the future. The tariffs were put in place on April the 2nd. Well, in the days since, the S&P 500, which I consider to be a much better measure of the stock market than the Dow Jones 30, because this includes 500 companies, it went down 10.5% over Thursday and Friday. Only 3 other times since World War II has this index or its precursor suffered that big of a decline. Those were March 2020, that was the beginning of the pandemic, November 2008, during the global financial crisis, and then the Black Monday crash of 1987. That's it. We are in that territory, the 4th biggest 2-day decline of modern history. And so that is causing some concern because that is obviously history making. And so if we go here to CNBC, there is a section talking about tariffs. And this first section caught my eye. A group of tech and finance leaders is heading to see Donald Trump to talk common sense about the sweeping tariffs. Several sources told this tech journalist, Kara Swisher, who is very well known and is a very respected reporter in the business world. And then I go to this CNBC video. I will let the video title speak for itself. Trump tariffs are so crazy, I don't think we'll have them 2 months from now. And that's from this fella from Harvard. And that's kind of where I stand. They are causing such noise, such impact negatively on the market. You can see this is the data point right here. This line right here. There's only 3 that have been bigger. And they're driving a bunch of tech and finance leaders to go talk to the president, that I can't see how this lasts long. And so what I'm going to do, and you don't have to follow me, this is not my advice for what you need to do, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait and see. Because if I do stuff right now, I'm going to pay a tariff. If I wait and hold, maybe two months from now, a bunch of this stuff gets lifted and I can send my cards home and not get dinged by a 25% tariff. So the play for me living in Canada is just to pause and hold, and hopefully some of this stuff will go away. You don't have to follow that advice. I'm not saying that is the best advice for you or the best action for you. You do what you think is best, but that's what I'm going to do. That's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, sometimes we preview the next video, and that's what we're going to do here. It is coming out next time, and it is called The Challenges of Being an International Collector, which is obviously very relevant given what I've just talked about in terms of tariffs. You will see that this video was recorded on March the 21st. You can see it here in the file name. So this was before all the tariff stuff came out. I recorded a bunch of videos. I don't talk about tariffs specifically, but really, once you add tariffs on top of what I talk about in this video, it just really reinforces and reemphasizes what I'm talking about in the video because of those challenges, tariffs being one added thing on top of what I talk about. So that's the video coming out next time. Thank you as always for listening and watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.